The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Concordat was the largest structure ever built by any species in the known universe. It floated in the space between 3 star systems, a massive station that could hold millions of beings at once. Today, representatives from over 300 different alien species had gathered for what everyone believed would be a historic moment. They were right, but not in the way they expected. High Sovereign Zethrax of the Dominion Empire stood at the central podium. He was a terrifying sight to most species. Standing over 9 feet tall, his body was covered in thick black armor that had grown from his own flesh. His head resembled something between an insect and a nightmare. With 6 glowing red eyes and mandibles that clicked together when he spoke, behind him stood 12 of his personal guards, each one just as frightening as their master. The Dominion had ruled a quarter of the galaxy for over 10,000 years. They had conquered 63 different species during that time. Some they had enslaved, others they had simply wiped out. When the Dominion spoke, everyone listened, because the alternative was death. Beings of the Concordat, Zethrax began, his voice booming through the chamber, "We have gathered you here to witness justice. The species known as humanity has committed crimes against the Dominion Empire. They have expanded their territory without permission. They have violated trade agreements across 17 star systems. And most seriously, they have destroyed 3 Dominion patrol vessels, killing over 2,000 of our warriors." He paused to let his words sink in. Around the chamber, various alien species exchanged worried glances. Everyone knew about the humans. They were a young species, having only discovered faster-than-light travel about 300 years ago. They seemed friendly enough, always talking about trade and cultural exchange. But they were small, weak. They had registered only 112 ships with the Concordat. The Dominion had 40,000. For these crimes, Zethrax continued, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction, the Dominion Empire hereby declares total war upon Earth and all human colonies. Their worlds will burn, their people will serve us as slaves, their civilization will be erased from history. The chamber erupted in whispers and gasps. Several species who had suffered under Dominion rule looked down at the floor, remembering their own conquests. The crystalline arbiter who presided over the Concordat, a being named Valeth, shifted uncomfortably on her platform.
Ow.
She had seen this happen before. She knew what came next. Everyone turned to look at the human delegation. Ambassador Samuel Grant sat in a simple chair on the human platform. He was an older man, perhaps 60 years old, by human standards, with silver hair and calm gray eyes. He wore a plain, dark suit, nothing fancy or decorated. Beside him sat his aide, a young woman named Catherine Morris, who had gone very pale at the Dominion's words. But Samuel himself showed no fear. He sat with his hands folded in his lap, his expression thoughtful, as if he was considering what to have for dinner rather than listening to the death sentence of his entire species. Then he did something that confused everyone in the chamber. He laughed. It was not a nervous laugh. It was not the bitter laugh of a man who had given up hope. It was a warm, genuine chuckle. It's the kind of sound someone might make when they heard a good joke from an old friend. The laughter echoed through the suddenly silent chamber. High Sovereign Zethrax's S6 eyes narrowed. Does the human find something amusing about its own extinction? Samuel stood up slowly, still smiling. I apologize, High Sovereign. I don't mean any disrespect. It's just that you reminded me of something. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small book. It was old, clearly very old, with a leather cover that had been worn smooth by countless hands over many years. Some of the pages were yellow with age. What is that? Valeth asked, her crystalline form flickering with curiosity. This is a journal, Samuel said, holding it up so everyone could see. It has been in my family for about 400 years. My ancestors started writing in it during a great war on our homeworld, and every generation since has added to it. He opened the book carefully, treating it with obvious reverence. You see, high sovereign humans have a very long history of being told that we are finished, that we cannot win, that we should simply give up and accept our fate. This book contains a record of every single time someone has made that mistake. Zethrox made a sound of disgust. Your primitive conflicts mean nothing. Fighting among yourselves does not prepare you for facing the Dominion. You might be surprised, Samuel said calmly, but I understand your skepticism. Let me read you a few entries. He flipped through the pages until he found what he was looking for. Entry 1. The year was 1942 by our calendar. A nation called Germany had conquered most of a continent and believed they were unstoppable. A general named Heinrich Schultz wrote in his personal diary that the Americans were soft and untested. He predicted they would crumble within months. Samuel looked up. Germany surrendered 3 years later. They were completely defeated. He turned more pages. Entry 23, the year 2031. A coalition of nations believed they could starve out their enemies through economic warfare. They estimated 6 months until total victory. Smiled slightly. They were wrong. The war lasted 2 years, and they lost everything. Enough of this, Zethrax snapped. Your history of fighting other humans is meaningless. The Dominion has crushed 63 species. We have 10,000 years of conquest behind us. You have nothing. Samuel closed the book, but kept it in his hand. High Sovereign, I have a question for you. The Dominion has fought many wars. You have won most of them. But have you ever wondered why you have never encountered humanity before? We have been traveling through space for 300 years. We have settlements across a significant portion of the galaxy. Yet the Dominion has never found us, never fought us, never even heard of the wars we have already won. For the first time, something flickered in Zethrox's eyes. It might have been confusion, or perhaps the very beginning of doubt. What are you saying, human? Samuel tucked the journal back into his jacket and clasped his hands behind his back. I am saying, High Sovereign, that humanity learned a very important lesson a long time ago. We learned that the universe is a dark and dangerous place, filled with species that would destroy us without a second thought. We learned that showing strength invites challenges, but showing weakness invites death. He paused, looking around the chamber at the hundreds of species watching him. So we chose a third option. We hid our true strength. We showed the galaxy only what we wanted them to see. And we waited, hoping that we would never need to reveal what we had become. He turned back to face the Dominion delegation. You have just forced our hand, High Sovereign. So now I suppose you will learn what 400 years of preparation looks like. Catherine Morris stared at her ambassador with wide eyes. She had worked for him for 3 years and thought she knew him well. But the man standing before the Dominion now was someone she had never seen before. Someone dangerous. The chamber remained completely silent after Samuel's words. 300 species held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Many of them had been conquered by the Dominion. They knew the terror of facing that massive fleet, the hopelessness of fighting against an enemy that seemed unbeatable. They expected the human ambassador to back down, to beg for mercy, to do what every other species had done before. But Samuel Grant did not beg. He pulled the journal out again and opened it to a section near the middle of the book. Let me tell you about the first alien species humanity ever encountered, he said, his voice calm and steady. The year was 2247. It's about 150 years after we first left Earth. We had spread to about 30 star systems by then. We thought we were alone in the universe. We were wrong. He began to read from the journal. Entry 203. First contact with alien life. They called themselves the Vrel hegemony. They had been traveling through space for over 3,000 years. They had better ships, better weapons, and more experience than we could ever hope to match. When they found our colony on Kepler 44b, they decided that humans would make excellent slaves. Samuel looked up at the assembly. The Vrel attacked without warning. They destroyed 2 of our colony ships and killed over 50,000 people in the first week. They sent a message to Earth demanding complete surrender. They gave us 30 days to respond. He turned a page. My great-great-grandmother was alive during that time. She wrote this entry in the journal. She said that everyone was terrified. The news broadcasts showed the Vrel ships, these massive vessels that made our own look like toys. Politicians argued about whether to surrender or fight. Military leaders said we had no chance. Samuel closed the book and held it against his chest. But humanity did not surrender. We never do. Instead, we did what humans have always done when our backs are against the wall. We adapted. We improvised. We found a way. High Sovereign Zethrax made a dismissive clicking sound with his mandibles. In what way did you find human? How did your primitive species defeat an empire 3,000 years old? We learned their technology, Samuel said simply. We captured one of their ships during a raid and took it apart piece by piece. Within 6 months, we understood how their engines worked. Within a year, we had built better ones. Within 2 years, we had a fleet of ships that could match anything they had. He began to pace slowly across the platform. But more importantly, we learned how they thought. The Vrel were conquerors like you. They had never faced an enemy that truly fought back. When a species was beaten, they surrendered. When a world was captured, its people gave up. The Vrel had forgotten what it meant to face someone who would rather die than submit. Samuel stopped and turned to face the Dominion delegation directly. The war lasted for years. At the end of it, the Vrel hegemony no longer existed. Their government collapsed. Their military was destroyed. Their homeworld surrendered unconditionally and is now a human colony called New Montana. 3,000 years of history, erased by a species they thought were primitive savages. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Several representatives began checking their records, searching for any mention of the Vrel. They found nothing. It was as if that entire civilization had simply vanished. How is this possible? Valeth asked, her crystalline form shimmering with disbelief. The Concordat has no records of this war. No records of the Vrel at all. Because we did not want you to have records, Samuel replied. After the Vrel War, humanity made a decision. We realized that the galaxy was not the peaceful place we had hoped it would be. We realized that there would be other species like the Vrel, other empires that would see us as prey. So we chose to hide. He pulled out the journal again and flipped to another marked page. Entry 218. The year 2289. A species called the Keth Combine launched a surprise attack on our outer colonies. They had been watching us for years, waiting for the right moment. They struck on a holiday, when our defenses were relaxed. They killed 200,000 civilians in the opening hours. Samuel's voice grew quieter, but somehow more intense. My grandfather wrote this entry. He was 17 years old when the attacks happened. He lived on one of the colonies that was hit. He watched his parents die when the Keth bombed his neighborhood. He spent 3 days hiding in the ruins before rescue ships arrived. He looked up at Zethrax. The war against the Keth lasted 11 years. It was brutal. It was bloody. We lost millions of people. But in the end, we won. We did not just defeat them. We destroyed them completely. Every military base, every shipyard, every weapon factory. We were very thorough. You expect us to believe this? One of the Dominion guards spoke up. That your weak species defeated 2 alien empires that we have never even heard of? Samuel smiled, but there was no warmth in it now. I expect nothing. I am simply telling you what happened. Whether you believe it or not is your choice. But I will tell you this. After the Keth War, humanity made another decision. We decided that we would never be caught off guard again. We would never be weak again. We would never give another species the chance to threaten our existence. He tucked the journal away. For the last 150 years, while the Concordat thought we were a small, peaceful species interested only in trade and exploration, we have been preparing, building, growing. We registered 100. And 12 ships with your organization because that is what you expected to see. A young species, still finding its feet, no threat to anyone. Samuel walked to the edge of his platform and looked out at the assembly. The truth is very different. The truth is that humanity has been at war, in one form or another, for our entire existence. We fought each other for thousands of years before we ever reached the stars. We fought the Vrel. We fought the Keth. We have faced extinction more times than I can count, and every single time, We have survived. He turned back to face High Sovereign Zethrax. So when you stand there and threaten us with your 40,000 ships, when you promise to enslave our people and burn our worlds, I do not feel fear. I feel something much simpler. He paused. I feel sorry for you, because you have no idea what you have just awakened. Catherine Morris sat frozen in her chair, her mind racing. She had studied human history extensively during her training. She knew about World War II. She knew about the various conflicts that had shaped Earth before the Space Age, but she had never heard of the Vrel. She had never heard of the Keth. Those wars were not in any textbook she had ever read, which meant they had been classified at the highest levels. Hidden from everyone, even other humans. What else had been hidden? She looked at Ambassador Grant, this gentle old man she had worked with for years, and wondered if she had ever really known him at all. The atmosphere in the chamber had changed. What had started as a simple declaration of war, a routine crushing of a minor species, had become something else entirely. The representatives from 300 worlds leaned forward in their seats, desperate to hear what the human would say next. Samuel Grant reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small silver disc. He held it up so everyone could see it. This is a data chip, he explained. It contains information that humanity has kept secret for over a century. My government has authorized me to share it with you today, given the circumstances. He walked to the center of the chamber where a holographic display platform stood. With a simple motion, he placed the chip on the surface. Immediately, a three-dimensional map of the galaxy sprang to life above it, filling the space with thousands of glowing points of light. This is a real-time feed of humanity's actual military presence in the galaxy, Samuel said. Not the diplomatic fleet you know about, the real one. The points of light numbered in the hundreds of thousands. High Sovereign Zethrax stepped closer, his 6 eyes scanning the display. This is a trick. Some kind of deception. No trick, Samuel replied calmly. Every point you see represents a military installation, a shipyard, a supply depot, or an active vessel. The feed is encrypted, but I can assure you it is accurate as of this moment. Valeth, the crystalline arbiter, moved closer as well. Ambassador, if this is genuine, it would mean humanity has been lying to the Concordat for centuries. It's not lying, Samuel corrected. Simply not telling you everything. There is a difference. We never claimed to have only 100 ships. We simply registered that many with your organization. You assumed the rest. He gestured to the map. Our current active fleet consists of approximately 14,000 capital-class warships. Each one is larger and more heavily armed than anything the Dominion has ever built. In addition, we have 42,000 support vessels, including carriers, supply ships, and medical frigates. Our total military personnel numbers, around 800 million. The chamber exploded in noise. Representatives shouted questions, demanded proof, accused the human of lying. But Samuel simply stood there, waiting for the chaos to die down. When it finally did, he continued. I understand this is difficult to believe. For 300 years, humanity has presented itself as a minor power, interested only in peaceful cooperation. We traded with you. We attended your conferences. We smiled and nodded and pretended to be impressed by your achievements. He walked around the holographic display slowly. But behind that mask, we were busy. We colonized 412 worlds, most of them in systems you have never explored. We built shipyards in the dark spaces between stars, where no one would think to look. We developed technologies that we never shared with anyone. He stopped and faced the Dominion delegation. High Sovereign, you have 40,000 ships. Impressive, by most standards. But we have 56,000, and ours are better. His vast mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation in his species. Impossible. The resources required for such a fleet would be enormous. You would need population, industry, materials beyond anything a single species could provide. Humanity has a population of 900 billion, Samuel said simply. Spread across 400 worlds, yes, but united under a single government when it comes to matters of defense. Every colony contributes to our military production, Every citizen understands that survival is the first priority. He pulled another data chip from his pocket and added it to the display. New information appeared, showing detailed specifications. This is our primary weapon system. We call it the Cascade Disruptor. It creates a chain reaction in conventional hull materials that tears ships apart from the inside. One hit from our smallest frigate can destroy a Dominion battleship. Another chip, more data. This is our defensive technology. Regenerative shielding that adapts to incoming fire. The more you hit it, the stronger it becomes. After the first few shots, your weapons will be essentially useless against our vessels. Another chip. This is our faster-than-light drive. You use gravitational corridors that limit your movement to established lanes. We developed something different. We can jump anywhere in the galaxy, instantly, with no cooldown period between jumps. Your ships take days to travel between systems. Ours take seconds. Zethrox stared at the data, his compound eyes flickering as he tried to process what he was seeing. Around him, his guards shifted nervously. They had come here expecting to witness the humiliation of a primitive species. Instead, they were learning that everything they knew about humans was wrong. "Why?" Valeth asked quietly. "Why hide all of this? If humanity is truly this powerful, why pretend to be weak?" Samuel turned to face her, because power attracts attention, and attention attracts enemies. We learned that lesson the hard way with the Vrel and the Keth. After those wars, we realized that the safest strategy was to remain invisible. Let the galaxy think we are harmless. Let potential enemies underestimate us. And if someone ever decided to attack us anyway, we would be ready. He looked around the chamber at the assembled species. For 150 years, it worked. No one bothered us because no one thought we were worth bothering. We traded, we explored, we lived in peace. We hoped it would last forever. His gaze returned to High Sovereign Zethrax, but you had to change that. You had to threaten us. You had to stand in front of the entire galaxy and promise to destroy us. And now, here we are. Zethrax found his voice at last. Even if everything you say is true, even if your fleet is larger than ours, war is not decided by numbers alone. The Dominion has fought for 10,000 years. We have experience. We have tactics. We have the will to do whatever is necessary to win. Samuel nodded slowly. I expected you to say something like that. You believe that your species is somehow special, that your history of conquest makes you superior. But let me ask you this, High Sovereign. In all your 10,000 years, in all your 63 conquests, have you ever faced an enemy that was truly prepared for war? An enemy that had spent generations doing nothing but getting ready to fight you? He paused, because that is exactly what you are facing now. Every advancement we have made, every ship we have built, every soldier we have trained has been done with one purpose in mind: survival. We do not fight for glory, or conquest, or resources. We fight because the alternative is extinction. And that gives us something that you, in all your power and arrogance, have never needed. He leaned forward slightly. Desperation. The will to do absolutely anything to survive. You cannot break that, High Sovereign. You cannot defeat an enemy who has nothing left to lose. Catherine Morris watched her ambassador with growing amazement. The gentle, soft-spoken diplomat she had known was gone, replaced by something harder and colder. She realized that Samuel Grant had been playing a role for years, perhaps for his entire career. The friendly ambassador was the mask. This was the real man underneath, and he was terrifying. The holographic display still glowed in the center of the chamber, showing the vast network of humanity's hidden military strength. Samuel Grant stood beside it, his silver hair catching the light from the projection. He had one more piece of information to share, and he knew it would change everything. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a final data chip. Unlike the others, this one was red. There is one more thing you need to understand, he said quietly. Something that I hope will help you make the right decision in the next few minutes. Place the red chip on the display. The holographic image changed, showing a different kind of network. Thousands of points appeared in the vast, empty spaces between star systems, in regions that appeared on no maps, in places where nothing should exist. We call this the Omega Protocol, Samuel explained. It is our final insurance policy. High Sovereign Zethrax studied the display with his 6 eyes. What am I looking at, human? Weapons platforms, Samuel replied. Thousands of them, hidden in deep space, where no one would ever think to look. They have been there for over a century, waiting. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy an entire star system. He walks slowly around the display. Every human colony is connected to this network through a system we call a Deadman switch. It monitors our civilization constantly, checking for signs of life, activity, communication. As long as humanity exists, the platforms remain dormant. They sit in the darkness and wait. Samuel stopped and faced the Dominion delegation directly. But if humanity falls, if our civilization is destroyed, if there is no longer anyone alive to send the signal that tells the platforms to stay asleep, then they wake up. And when they wake up, they begin a systematic extermination of every spacefaring species in the galaxy. The chamber went completely silent. Even the whispered conversations stopped. Every being in the room stared at the human ambassador with a mixture of horror and disbelief. You're insane, Zethrax finally said. You would destroy the entire galaxy out of revenge. Not revenge, Samuel corrected calmly. Prevention. You see, we realized long ago that there would always be species like you. Empires that see war as the natural order of things. Conquerors who believe that might makes right. Predators who view younger species as nothing more than prey. He gestured to the hidden platforms on the display. We cannot fight all of them. Even with our fleet, even with our technology, we cannot guarantee that we will always win. But we can guarantee that anyone who destroys us will not survive to enjoy their victory. The Omega Protocol ensures that attacking humanity is never worth the cost. Valeth, the crystalline arbiter, spoke with a voice that trembled slightly. Ambassador Grant, what you are describing is genocide on a galactic scale. The extinction of hundreds of species, billions of lives, all because of a war you might lose. Yes, Samuel agreed simply. It is terrible. It is monstrous. It goes against everything that humanity claims to value. But it is also the only thing that guarantees our survival in a universe that wants us dead. Pulled the journal from his jacket. Once more, and held it up. My ancestor who started, this book lived through a time when weapons existed that could destroy entire cities in a single blast. Nations pointed those weapons at each other for decades, each one knowing that using them would mean mutual destruction. It was madness, but it was also peace, because no one was willing to pull the trigger knowing they would die too. He tucked the journal away. The Omega Protocol is the same principle expanded to a galactic scale. Mutually assured destruction. If we die, everyone dies. It is the only form of protection that truly works. Zethrax's mandibles clicked rapidly. This is a bluff. You cannot possibly have built such a system. The resources, the coordination, the secrecy required would be impossible. Perhaps, Samuel said, or perhaps we simply had 150 years and 900 billion people to work on the problem. I cannot prove to you that the Omega Protocol is real. I can only tell you that it is, and let you decide whether you want to risk finding out the hard way. He walked to the edge of his platform and looked out at the assembled species. I want to be clear about something. Humanity does not want war. We never have. We spent 300 years hiding precisely because we hoped to avoid conflicts like this. We built the Omega Protocol not because we wanted to use it, but because we hoped its existence would make using it unnecessary. He turned back to face the Dominion. Most humans just want to live their lives in peace. They want to raise their children, build their homes, explore the stars. They do not dream of conquest or glory. They dream of a future where war is just a distant memory. Samuel's voice hardened. But you have threatened that future. You have stood before the galaxy and promised to enslave our people. You have killed civilians on ships that were simply passing through space. And you have forced us to reveal secrets that we have guarded for generations. He stepped closer to the edge of the platform, his eyes locked on Zethrax. So now, you have a choice to make. Hi, Sovereign. You can follow through on your declaration of war, You can send your 40,000 ships against our 56,000. You might even win. The Dominion is old and experienced, and war is unpredictable. Perhaps your tactics and your will would be enough to defeat us." Samuel paused. "But even if you win, even if you destroy every human colony and kill every man, woman, and child in our civilization, the Deadman switch will activate. The Omega platforms will wake up, and within 1 year, the Dominion will cease to exist. Your worlds will be burned. Your species will be exterminated. 10,000 years of history erased because you decided to pick a fight with the wrong enemy." He spread his hands. "Or you can make a different choice. You can withdraw your declaration of war. You can apologize for your aggression. You can enter into a treaty that ensures peace between our peoples for generations to come. And humanity can go back to being the quiet, friendly species that everyone assumed we were." Zethrak stood frozen, his massive form rigid with tension. Around him, his guards looked at each other with uncertainty in their eyes. They had served the Dominion their entire lives. They had believed in its power, its invincibility. And now, in the space of a few minutes, everything they thought they knew had been destroyed. "You cannot expect me to simply surrender," Zethrak said slowly. "The Dominion does not bow to threats. We do not show weakness to lesser species." Samuel shook his head. "I am not asking you to surrender. I am asking you to be smart. To recognize that this fight cannot be won, not really. Even if you destroy us, you destroy yourselves. Even if you conquer our worlds, you inherit only ashes. There is no victory here for anyone." He held up the journal one more time. 400 years of history, High Sovereign. 400 years of people telling humanity that we were finished, we could not win, that we should give up and accept our fate. Every single one of them was wrong. Every single one of them lost. He tucked the book away for the last time. "You can be different. You can be the first to make the smart choice. Or you can add your name to this journal and let my descendants read about how the great Dominion Empire made the same mistake as everyone else." The choice, he made clear, was entirely up to them. The chamber remained silent as the weight of Samuel Grant's words hung in the air. 300 species watched and waited, their eyes moving between the human ambassador and the towering figure of High Sovereign Zethrax. History was being made in this moment, and everyone knew it. Samuel clasped his hands behind his back and spoke in a calm, measured tone. "In approximately 6 hours, the first wave of our primary fleet will arrive at the border of Dominion space. This is not an attack. This is simply a demonstration, a way of showing you that everything I have said today is true. You will be able to scan our ships, verify their numbers, and see for yourself that humanity is not bluffing." He began to walk slowly across his platform. "Once our fleet is in position, you will have exactly 24 hours to make your decision. After that time, if you have not withdrawn your declaration of war, we will assume you have chosen conflict, and we will respond accordingly." Zethrak's S6 eyes followed the human's movement. "And what exactly do you expect from us, human? You speak of choices, but you only offer submission." "Not submission," Samuel corrected. "Reason. There is a difference." He stopped and turned to face the Dominion delegation directly. "Here are our terms. First, you will publicly withdraw your declaration of war. You will do this here in front of the entire Concordat, so that every species in this chamber understands that the Dominion has chosen peace over destruction." He held up one finger.
"Second,
You will pay reparations to the families of the civilians, your patrol vessels harassed and threatened. The attacks on those ships were unprovoked. Our vessels were traveling through space that humanity has occupied for over 50 years. Your patrols had no right to interfere with them, and when they did, our ships defended themselves. That is not a crime. That is survival." A second finger. Right. "Third, you will enter into a formal non-aggression treaty with humanity. This treaty will include provisions for open borders to our merchant vessels, regular diplomatic communication, and a commitment to resolve any future disputes through negotiation rather than violence." A third finger. You will release any intelligence you have gathered on human activities. We know your spies have been watching us. We want to know exactly what you know and how you learned it. This will help us prevent similar security failures in the future." He lowered his hand. "These are our terms. They are not negotiable. You will accept them completely, or you will face the consequences of refusal." Shh. Zithrax made a sound that might have been laughter if it had come from a human throat. "You demand a great deal for a species that was unknown to the galaxy a few centuries ago." "We demand only what is fair," Samuel replied. "You declared war on us? You threatened our existence? We are simply ensuring that it never happens again." The High Sovereign turned to consult with his guards. They spoke in hushed tones, their mandibles clicking rapidly as they debated. The other representatives in the chamber watched with fascination. None of them had ever seen the Dominion hesitate before. None of them had ever seen uncertainty in those cold red eyes. While they talked, Samuel walked over to where Catherine Morris sat frozen in her chair. "How are you doing?" he asked quietly. Catherine stared at him. "I don't even know who you are anymore." "I'm exactly who I've always been," Samuel said with a small smile. "I've just been doing my job, protecting humanity. Sometimes that means smiling and shaking hands. Sometimes it means reminding potential enemies why they should leave us alone. Did you know this was going to happen? Did you come here prepared for all of this?" Samuel looked out at the chamber. "I've been prepared for this my entire life. We all have, everyone in the diplomatic corps. We train for years before we're allowed to represent humanity to other species. Part of that training involves memorizing exactly what I've told them today. Every ambassador knows about the Hidden Fleet. Every ambassador knows about the Omega Protocol. We carry this information with us like a weapon, ready to use it if necessary." He patted her shoulder gently. "Most of us go our entire careers without ever needing to reveal any of it. I hoped I would be one of them. But the Dominion made their choice, and now we make ours." The whispered conversation among the Dominion delegation finally stopped. Zithrax turned back to face the human platform, his massive form seeming somehow smaller than before. "The Dominion," he said slowly, each word sounding like it caused him physical pain, withdraws its declaration of war against humanity. A gasp rippled through the chamber. Several species began speaking at once, their representatives unable to contain their shock. The Dominion had never backed down from a fight. Not in 10,000 years. Not once. Until now. Zithrax continued, his voice flat and emotionless. "We will discuss the details of reparations and treaties through appropriate diplomatic channels. The Dominion acknowledges that our patrol vessels acted inappropriately and will ensure such incidents do not occur again." "A wise choice, High Sovereign. Do not mistake this for weakness," Zithrax warned. "The Dominion does not fear you. We simply recognize that this conflict would benefit neither of our peoples." "I understand completely," Samuel said graciously, "and humanity appreciates your wisdom. We look forward to building a peaceful relationship with the Dominion in the years to come." He turned to address the broader assembly, raising his voice so everyone could hear. "Let me be clear to everyone gathered here today. What you have witnessed was not a demonstration of human aggression. It was a response to unprovoked threats against our people. Humanity's preference will always be peace. We extend friendship to any species willing to receive it. We ask only to be left alone, to live and grow alongside you." He paused, his gray eyes scanning the chamber. "But we have been hunted and threatened and underestimated since the day we left our home world. Every time someone has declared us finished, we have survived. Every time someone has promised to destroy us, we have emerged stronger, and we have very long memories." He held up the leather journal that had played such a crucial role in the events of the day. "My descendants will continue adding to this book. They will record today's events and what we learned from them. And they will tell their children the same thing my grandfather told my father and my father told me." Samuel Grant smiled, and this time there was warmth in it, genuine and real. "Never bet against humanity. We have a habit of winning." He tucked the journal back into his jacket and walked calmly back to his seat. Catherine Morris stared at him with new eyes, seeing him clearly for the first time. The gentle old diplomat was still there. But now she understood the steel underneath. Around the chamber, 300 species began talking among themselves. Many of them had been conquered by the Dominion. Many of them had lost hope of ever being free. And now, for the first time in millennia, they had witnessed something they thought impossible. They had watched someone stand up to their oppressors and win. In the weeks and months that followed, everything would change. Species that had been silent for centuries would begin asking questions. Alliances would shift. The balance of power in the galaxy would never be the same. But that was a story for another day. For now. Samuel Grant sat quietly in his chair, his hand resting on the journal that had been his companion for so many years. The first human to face down the greatest empire in the galaxy. The first to show them that humanity was not prey, just another entry in a very long book.